Hello, welcome back to episode 2 of Simply Be, Simply Me with Nakeisha. I am excited for the second episode because I'm gonna pretend like I'm a pro now since I got the first one done and over with, but I'm not. Still working through my nerves, but hopefully you guys are enjoying what you watched last episode, and hopefully you will enjoy episode 2. So, episode 2, I want to have a conversation about imposter syndrome. That's a term that I've heard often. And if I'm honest, I didn't really understand what the term was or what the meaning behind it was. So I actually looked it up and I want to actually read what it means so everyone can fully see if they identify with it or fully understand how it may play a role in your life without you even realizing it. So, imposter syndrome is the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally despite despite being high performing in external objective ways. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud or a phony and doubting their abilities. Now, the one thing that speaks to me with this definition is not experiencing success internally, despite being high performing externally. Now, I didn't realize that I suffered from this until I started to hear it often. And then I was like, okay, let me look this up because I didn't believe that I actually fell into that category, but I really do. And I touched on this a little bit in episode 1 when people say to me, hey, how long have you been in real estate? I'm not ashamed to say how long I have been in real estate. It's just that when I'm in the space with other people who have 12 years, 7 years, 5 years, I feel, I don't want to say ashamed because it's not a shame, but it's a level of how can I say I have 3 years in this success sitting next to the person who has 12 years? It makes me feel not that I'm not worthy because I worked hard for my success. I deserve the things that have been given to me. It's just a feeling that sometimes in those spaces, whether it's on a panel or even I'll take it a step further, when I am out and someone recognizes me and say, "Oh, Nakeisha, you inspire me." When someone says to me, "I inspire them," that's something that I'm still trying to get used to. I don't know um, how to really handle that well. It's great to inspire people, but when you are someone who is an introvert like myself and someone who's just very private, I sometimes question, like, how did I inspire you? Like, I feel like what I'm doing, you're able to do as well, or the person next to me is just as great. So, what makes me so different that I inspired you? Or when I'm acknowledged and I receive an award, sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable. And with that, it makes me not celebrate myself as much as I should. Um, I feel like I would rather celebrate and showcase other people's success rather than my own success. And I'm working on that um, because when I sit with God and I sit in meditation and prayer, I then understand from God, well, why would you think you're not worthy enough to be celebrated? Why do you feel that you're not worthy enough to receive these awards and these accolades, especially when you worked for them? They weren't given to you just because someone said, hey, Nakeisha, we like your shirt, or we like the way you dress, or you're pretty, or whatever. You actually worked for these awards. You worked hard to achieve these things in your life. So, just as much as you should celebrate other people, you should celebrate yourself as well. And that is something that I really, 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 really struggle with. Another part of it that I struggle with is sometimes it's hard for me to be celebrated in spaces where I am the only one. And when I say the only one, I mean the only one who looks like me, the only person of color, the only person, sometimes maybe the only female in a space. So I'm learning how to navigate not having imposter syndrome. And I don't know if I will ever fully be um, in a space where I will celebrate myself 100%, but I definitely am working on being better at celebrating myself more. So I want to elaborate a little bit more about imposter syndrome and also tying it into being in spaces where I'm the only one. And I know some people don't like to talk about this. Some of my counterparts may be surprised to hear some of the things that I'm going to say, but it is really hard sometimes to be the only one in the room. When you look around, if you're in a meeting, if you're in spaces and you don't see someone that looks like you, sometimes it can be really challenging. And I will speak for myself. You sometimes feel like there's no one in the room that could relate to you, there's no one in the room that understands you, there's no one in the room that you could maybe share a joke with that they will understand. And what I mean by that is sometimes I'm in the room with people and I'm the only one. And sometimes they have jokes or they have things that they laugh and they talk about that I can't relate to. And they're not saying anything wrong. It's just, I just don't relate to it. They are nice people. I enjoy working with them, but there's moments that I just feel like I wish there was someone else there. However, recently in church, I've heard a couple of times our pastor say that you have to stop looking at you being the only person in the room. There's a reason why God chose you to be the only person in the room. And I'm working on fully receiving that. And I think I have gotten much better with that. If my husband was here, he would tell you. And one day I'm going to have him on the show as a guest. Um, it's a struggle for me more than most people know. And sometimes I feel that I'm pouring into others who look like me and in trying to help them along in their process to be better, to grow, but also to help them get into the rooms. And I had to take a step back and say, not everyone who looks like me wants to be in the room. And I shouldn't put any, and I don't, it's not pressure, but if they don't say to me, hey, I want to be in these rooms as well, I shouldn't put that pressure on them to want to be in the rooms if they're not ready. I don't know if anyone is ever ready for it. I know that I didn't plan to be in spaces where I'm the only one and where my name holds weight. Things that I say holds weight. I don't know. It's just a tough topic and feeling for me. But again, I'm working through it. Um, Recently, I was in a space where someone else was in the room that looked like me. And I was so happy. And the joy of just looking and seeing that person in a room that looked like me, but actually being in the room just made me so happy. But I realized that when I was having the person in the room that looked like me, I was so focused on just seeing someone that I now I became too comfortable. And I don't know if people understand what that means. So now on the flip side of this, being in a space where I now am in a room with someone else who looks like me, along with my other counterparts, and they don't look like me, I was so happy to have this person in the room with me. And I realized over time, because I was so comfortable with that person being in the room with me, I kind of turned myself off or doubt myself down a little bit. So now the people around me who were used to a certain Nakeisha and a certain level of I would say I was still professional, um, but there was something about me that they weren't seeing anymore. And it was because I was so focused on, oh my gosh, I'm happy that the person across from me looks like me. And if I say a joke, they'll get it. If jokes are being said around me and I don't understand, I can look at the person across from me and I know just from eye contact, because when we in the room, we could just look at each other and not say anything, and we know what we're saying without using any of our words. They would get like, "Don't worry, you're not alone. I don't understand this joke either." Or dealing with moments of being in spaces and dealing with microaggression and having someone else in the room with me who we can lock eyes and see like, no, you're not crazy. That was a microaggression moment. That was tough for me. So then I started to question, okay, well, what do you want? You say you want people in the room with you, but then you get people in the room with you and you don't fully showcase who you are to those around you, who are used to a certain Nakeisha. How do I balance the two? Like, when do I ever just still show up authentically as me in both spaces and in both worlds? And that is still somewhat of a challenge for me. But that person ended up leaving the room, and I ended up feeling sad. I ended up feeling like, once again, I'm the only one. And I tell myself every single day, in this current moment, you are the only one because that's what God wants for you. But I'm still not going to stop creating opportunities for those behind me to be able to enter the room if they choose to, versus me trying to pour into them for them to enter the room for my own comfort level. That's what it is. I feel like there was a moment where I was pouring into people to enter the room. And yes, I wanted them there and I felt that they deserved to be there. But I was also doing it self-consciously because I wanted to feel more comfortable in that setting and in that space. So I'm trying to just continue to work on just being better in that area. Um, Now, if I stay focused on God wanted me to be in this room, I understand clearly that being in this room, I create opportunities for those who look like me without being in the room. And maybe that's part of my calling, and maybe that's just part of my purpose. And I just have to push through the days that's a little tougher for me, because when I know that the people who don't have the same opportunities that I have are now getting opportunities, or doors are now starting to be open for them, then that's when I say, okay, stay where you are, do what you do, keep moving in the right direction, because it is beneficial and it's helping others. So that's what I'm doing right now. So as I sit and have this conversation about imposter syndrome, I realize that I only suffer from this in the space of real estate. I don't feel that I suffer from this in other areas of my life. I remember having a conversation with my husband, and I said to him, I had a conversation with an agent. They called me and they were looking for some guidance on something, and they were looking for guidance to possibly join a team, or possibly changing direction and looking for someone to kind of lead them in a space of being accountable in real estate. And I said to the person, well, who are you thinking? And they said, well, I was thinking of you, and this is why I called you. And I was having this conversation with my husband, and I told him, I felt like, well, why me? And he said, well, why not you? Like, you already know it's going to be you. You already knew when you presented the question that their answer was going to be you, and you have to figure out, why do you always question why it shouldn't be you? Or why are you always so shocked that people want you, whether it's to guide them, lead them? Like, I'm good with my clients needing my help and my support, But when individuals in this industry feel like, hey, I look up to you, I follow your journey, I see how you lead others, I see how you celebrate others, I see how people are successful under you no matter what space they are in. I see how you have poured into other real estate agents and now they are truly top producers because of the time and effort you have put into them. And yes, those things are true, but it's still, I don't know, maybe I'm just beyond humble. I don't know, but it still doesn't, I still don't receive it well. And I don't know why it's only in the space of real estate. I think usually I want to just do questions pertaining to certain topics from, people sending me emails and things of that nature. But I think what I'm going to do, I am going to do another episode about this, and I'm going to actually have a guest just to see what their perspectives are pertaining to this. Because now, when I really, really sit and think about it, now I'm going to be in some prayer and meditation with God because now this episode has pulled this out of me. I only feel this way in real estate, and I don't know why. Because I do know, again, I earned everything that I have. I deserve everything that I have, but there's a level where I feel like you want me to speak on a panel? You want me you want to invite me to speak individually to other real estate agents? Like, why me? There's so many other people for you to choose from. I need to dive deeper into that. So stay tuned for, I don't know what episode, but stay tuned to see follow up and see how I handled once I sit with it more and talk to God about it. So stay tuned. So the more I sit with this imposter syndrome topic and this episode, it is opening up different emotions for me that I didn't expect. So this wasn't planned, but this is part of simply me and being authentic and true about my feelings. I realized that the only time I don't feel this way is when I'm in church on Sundays and I may hear my pastor say, stop worrying about or stop complaining about being the only one in the room. I know I said that earlier, but when I sit with it, that's truly the only time I don't feel it. And I take what he says, and when he says there's a reason why God placed you in that room. There's a reason why you're the only. I take it in and I am feeling great. I'm feeling empowered and inspired on Sunday. It goes into Monday, but by Tuesday, it's gone. I don't feel that way. So now if a situation presents itself again where I'm the only one or people are giving me acknowledgments, because it's not only being the only one, it's also when people are just wanting me to do things, I feel this imposter syndrome. And just recently with the panel that I spoke on, the flyer came out and originally it was supposed to be 2 females and 2 males. And when the flyer came out, I was actually on the phone with someone and they said, hey, I'm sending you the flyer. We just completed it. And I said, okay, great. And when they sent it to me, I said, well, what happened to such and such? Because there was another female that was supposed to be a part of this panel. She was not African American, but it still made me feel comfortable that another female was going to be there. And they said, well, at the last minute, she backed out. And I promise you guys, it never fails. Anytime I'm in a space, and I'm actually probably teaching myself as I say this because now things are going on in my head. Anytime I'm in a space where someone looks like me or it's another female or it's a person that I feel comfortable, I always end up being the only one. And now as I say that, again, it's going to go back to what my pastor said. There's a reason why God keeps making me the only one. So when I saw the flyer, it made me feel so uncomfortable because now the flyer shows the 2 males, and of course they don't look like me, and then me. So in that moment, I felt a way because I was the only person that was African American, but I was now also the only female. And that made me feel uncomfortable. And I remember showing it to my husband, and I said, I really need to dive deep into why this makes me feel so uncomfortable. It wasn't that I felt like I wasn't able to actually present on the panel. I knew the topics, and I knew I was able to get through it with no problem. But just seeing me being the only female bothered me. Me being the only Black person bothered me. And I can't wait to really dive deeper into this. I'm gonna go to therapy for this. I'm already in therapy, but everybody should be in therapy, by the way. So just so you know. But I'm gonna talk to my therapist about this because I don't know why this bothers me so much in this industry of being the only one. I really want to know your thoughts, and I want to hear what you think, because maybe I could be overthinking this. It could be something that is just I'm in my head too much about, and I could just let it go. So I would love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on how has imposter syndrome shown up in your life, and maybe also someone has some advice for me or can share their own personal journeys of how they move past this struggle that I feel that I'm having now as I speak more about it, of how to move forward in a better space and not have imposter syndrome in the industries that you're in, or even in your life as a mom, a wife, husband, significant other, friend, sister. I know it shows up in different aspects in people's lives. So maybe you guys can share your thoughts and opinions and also give me some guidance. So as I sit here and have this conversation, and as I continue to walk through and play over in my head how I feel, my thoughts and opinion about imposter syndrome, you guys can't see, but I can see there's about 5 people behind the scenes, of course, the team that's shooting. And I can see a couple of them, their faces as if they want to say something. So one of the people that I am looking at, and I hate to put you on the spot right now, but I am, Mr. KG. You guys will not see him because he's not camera ready, he said. But I keep seeing you make expressions every time I speak about what I'm struggling with imposter syndrome. And as I dive deep into it, and as I sit here, I literally feel like I need to run to God in a therapy session right now to find out why is this impacting me so much, only in real estate. What are you thinking?
Well, yeah. So I recently felt like I was experiencing imposter syndrome. I was highlighted at this awards ceremony, and everyone who was on the ballot was an executive at J.C. Penney over the entire company, Ulta Beauty, a former NBA athlete, a former NFL, MLB athlete, and then there's just little old me, KG of Cosign. So I'm like, out of everybody that could have gave this honor to, like, why me? Why Cosign? A lot of my friends tell me that you have to like celebrate your wins. You are doing a lot, but I just honestly I don't know what it is. I just don't see it. Like I know I'm doing amazing things, but when you put what I'm doing up against people who are running multi-million, billion-dollar organizations or impacting the world in a global way, it's kind of hard to feel like I belong in the same room when I'm just, doing it in a couple markets. So I've dealt with that a lot. Every time I get to an awards gala and somebody honors me, and it's like, I don't know why I feel like this, but it's just something I feel every time.
See, it's interesting that you say that. So the minute you said little old me,
Right.
what I felt to say to you, but then a voice behind me said, well, why don't you say that to yourself? I felt
Exactly.
to say to you, no, it's not little old you. You should celebrate that. You worked hard, and you should acknowledge yourself that you deserve it. And it's no little old me. It's like when someone says, oh, you're little, I see you doing your little job over there. Like
Right. Little
that's like a
business
backhanded comment.
for
It's not
sure.
really a good compliment. But why it's not little old you. You deserve it. But as I'm thinking to say that to you, the voice in my head is like, well, why don't you feel that way about yourself? Because the other elements of what you said, it is, well, why me? compared to other people. I feel like, and I've said this to people in my industry, I've said it to my husband. There's people who I know in real estate, their numbers
Right.
run circles around my numbers. Like I don't even, it looks like I didn't accomplish anything in real estate when I think about their numbers, but for whatever reason, they're not celebrated or highlighted like
Right.
I may be celebrated or highlighted. And then I feel like I shrink myself a little bit because I'm like, well, why me?
That's how I feel.
I want to hide, but why me? But why not us? When I think about it, like, why not? Like,
I mean, that's a great question. I ask myself all the time because similar to what you're saying, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm looking at, okay, how many people these people impact. And I know we're doing the same, but it's just like, man, if you actually look at the data, the numbers, they're probably like 10xing me.
mm-hmm.
But it could also be impact. We may have more, impact than just the numbers that people that we don't see, but that other people see. So I mean, how you're asking why you're saying to yourself to take the same advice, maybe I should do the same as well. Like, okay, maybe I am killing it, and there's things people are saying about our brand that I don't see, and just continue to do the work and accept these celebrations and these wins, and believe that we deserve it.
Okay, you just made me realize something else. You're right. We do have an impact that we don't see and we don't realize.
Right.
Even people are watching us often. And I say that to say one day I did receive an award. I posted the reward award I received, and someone sent me a text message. And the someone that sent me a text message, we didn't work in the same brokerage. Um, we speak, but not that often. And it was a male versus a female. Because typically, you will get messages from females more so. You inspire me, I look up to you and things of that nature, at least for me. And the male said to me, congratulations on your award. I want you to know you're not only recognized in your brokerage firm, but you are also recognized in the city of Dallas. Mm-hmm. And you have such an impact on so many people more than you even realize. And I was in complete awe when I read that message because I didn't even know that people outside of my brokerage firm, people in the city of Dallas that I don't even know that well, even felt that way, that I impacted them in any shape, way, or form to that capacity. So in that moment, I was like, okay, well, I get it now. But then I still go back to those moments sometimes like, how do we stay? Is there a way to just stay in the moment of not feeling like you have imposter syndrome? Like, do people?
Someone once told me it's about your village and your community, like having those people remind you and, not to seek validation, but it's also having those people in your circle who uplift you when you can't lift yourself up.
Okay.
So I don't have a huge circle, but like the small circle that I do have, they always remind me like, what you're doing is going to be global. It may not be global yet, but it's going to get there. Imagine where you started, just a kid in Killeen. Now you're, a national publication, national media company. So small steps, but celebrate all those steps, celebrate those wins because somebody wants to be in a position that you're in. So, we just have to, lean on our village, our community on those times that we don't believe in ourselves.
Well, I'm going to share something with you that you didn't know. So I was doing research and trying to figure out where I wanted to actually shoot the podcast. And you came up. So I don't just say yes to any space. I have to, check it out. And I remember sitting with my oldest son and I was showing him a clip of something you posted on social media. And he said, because he's in videography and photography and things of that nature. And he was like, oh my gosh, I love that space. I would love to have a space like that. Like, that's good for him. Like, he's doing his thing. That's a big thing for him to be doing. He's doing his thing. So
that's amazing.
Congratulations to that.
Thank you.
You inspiring even the younger generation without you knowing. So, okay. So thank you for sharing that and letting me know, most importantly, I'm not alone in this whole imposter syndrome. So now I'm gonna go back to Q&A over here. So I'm gonna go to Q&A right now. Let's see. Okay, so there's actually two questions here. All right, so the first one is, if you were not a realtor, then what would you be doing? That's an interesting question. So prior to me doing real estate, I had my own HR consulting firm. So I had that for about 12 years. So I would assume, if I'm being honest, I probably would still be doing that, because at one point when I started real estate, I was still doing my HR consulting business and then doing real estate at the same time. But I didn't know real estate was going to move so fast for me and grow so fast for me that it was a little tough to manage both of them full time. So I did scale back a little bit on my HR consulting firm. I still have it, but I just don't manage the day to day like I used to before. So I would assume that that's what I would still be doing. Unless God had different plans for me that I'm not aware of just yet, I would assume that I would still be doing full time HR consulting. So let's see, there was another question. Hello. So here's the deal. Life has had me on the ropes lately. It's starting to feel like if it's not one thing, it's another. What do you do to stay sane? Huh. I was going to say really quick, have a glass of wine, but that won't be appropriate. Only because honestly, I do have a glass of wine occasionally, but that's not what helps me stay sane. I said it in episode one. I am a woman of God, and I do speak to my husband. I have my best friend, and people that I talk to that can uplift me when I need to be refueled with, like inspiration and things of that nature. But I have to sit in prayer and meditation with God. I will put on some praise and worship for hours at a time to lift me up. I will sit and I will watch in the mornings during the week. There is a online prayer service and meditation that I watch, and it's things to help you start your morning in a positive light, despite what the night may have brought you or anything you may be going through in life. I journal a lot, and when I journal, it's me journaling to God of showing my gratitude, but also expressing how I may be feeling that day. If the day was tough, if I was feeling blah, if I cried today and the reasons why I cried. Those are the things that I do to stay sane. Another thing that I'm starting to do is I am prioritizing myself. And what I mean by that is I pour into everyone, my business, my husband, my kids, and I'm not perfect. Trust me, by no means am I perfect. I fall short in each of those areas at some point in time, because you can't be perfect and you can't pour into everyone 100% of the time at all times. But I realized that pouring into all those different areas of my life, that I wouldn't pour into myself. So now I'm taking time to really pour into myself and take a couple of days off to reset, going to the spa. I'm actually signing up to do the yearly subscription. So I'm going to make sure every month I am at the spa, just taking a day to disconnect and recenter myself and pour into myself to stay sane. So hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully it helps you find ways to help you stay sane, because I know life can be tough when you feel like you can't catch a break. And in those moments for me, and I don't want to ever dismiss anyone's religion, but whatever your religion is, whoever you believe in, I feel like you should lean more into those things when you find that you are not catching a break in life, because that's what helps me. So hopefully that answers your question. So don't forget to send your questions to SBSM as Simply Be Simply Me. I will be answering your questions every episode. And I promise, if I don't get to your question in this episode, I will get to it the next episode or maybe the episode after that. Hopefully, you enjoyed this segment. We are definitely going to have a part two about imposter syndrome, because there's so much more that we can dive into. But subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch the full episode streaming live on all channels. Bye.